Dawn, November 22nd, 2025. The Taiwan Strait immersed in thick fog layer to the point ocean waves had no sound. Dead silent. Only the faint, pale gray early daylight like a thin knife slicing across the horizon. Suddenly, at air defense radar stations along the western coast of Taiwan, screens simultaneously turned bright red. 30 white light streaks appeared simultaneously from the direction of mainland China, speed over 10 times the speed of sound, altitude skyrocketing in just a few seconds. Radar duty crew not yet able to report. Then the alarm siren shrieked, piercing through the thick concrete layer of the command bunker. In the war room under the mountain, Taiwanese officers stood up from chairs almost simultaneously. A hand slammed down hard on the confirm button. Brief order rang out in headsets of all air defense batteries. Ballistic missiles, 30 rounds. Heading Taipei and Kaohsiung, fire to intercept immediately. At the same time, over 300 nautical miles south of the strait, on the decks of 4 U.S. destroyers patrolling the Philippine Sea, early warning satellites simultaneously sent urgent signals. Combat screen showed 30 bright red ballistic trajectories rushing across the strait. Countdown timer showed clearly, time to target less than 6 minutes. U.S. officers looked at each other for a brief moment. Then the battle station siren rang out. Cruise missile hatch doors on 4 ship hulls opened simultaneously. Over 40 vertical launch tubes flipped lids. Missile engines began screeching high-pitched notes, preparing for the counterattack. Only 11 minutes from detection time. The Taiwan Strait sky had never been so heavy. Less than 45 seconds after the red alert, 30 ballistic missiles rushed across the strait at terrifying speed. The western sky of Taiwan exploded continuously. Dozens of interceptor missiles from mountain and offshore batteries launched simultaneously, drawing tight, twisting white smoke lines amidst gray clouds. The first fireball appeared at 8,000 meters altitude over Taipei. An attack missile was hit, exploding into a bright orange fire cloud, debris falling like meteor rain. Next came the second, third, fourth, overlapping explosion sounds echoing against mountain walls, shaking even command bunkers deep underground. 17 were shot down within 1 minute 20 seconds, but the remaining 13 still rushed in. They dodged the fire net, dropping altitude suddenly, aiming straight at Songshan Airport, Chiayi Air Base, and Kaohsiung Strategic Port. At the same time, on the Philippine Sea, over 300 nautical miles from Taiwan, 4 U.S. destroyers were ready. The clock on the command deck counted down. Only 11 minutes had passed since the satellite detected the first launch. Vertical launch tube doors flipped open, hissing wind. Over 40 cruise missiles left the launchers simultaneously, tails spraying bright blue-white fire, shooting up into the sky, then suddenly turning horizontal, hugging the sea surface at near sonic speed, heading straight for the Chinese mainland. In the straight sky, explosions still echoed. Below the sea surface, long white smoke trails of U.S. missiles had begun cutting across waves. The counterattack took only 11 minutes to start. The western sky of Taiwan now only remained orange fire clouds and billowing black smoke. The remaining 13 ballistic missiles rushed down like supersonic knives. They cut through the cloud layer, carrying a terrifying shriek, shaking the very air. The first one slammed straight into Songshan Airport. A giant fire column rose 300 meters high, swallowing the runway, and a series of fighter jets preparing to take off. The second explosion rang out in Kaohsiung. The seaport fuel depot exploded into a bright red fireball. Shockwave wiped out everything within a 500-meter radius. At the same time, on the mainland of Fujian province, over 40 U.S. cruise missiles hugging the sea surface rushed in. They suddenly increased altitude at the last minute, aiming straight at the mobile launchers that just fired the first volley. The first cruise missile crashed into launcher number 1. Auxiliary ammo depot exploded continuously, creating a secondary explosion chain, lighting up the entire coastal area. Launchers number 2, 3, 4 were wiped out within just 15 seconds. Rocks, metal, and fire splashed hundreds of meters into the sky, falling like iron rain. Meanwhile, at Guangdong Air Base, the alarm sirens shrieked madly. Dozens of Chinese fighter jets left the runway simultaneously, tails spraying blue fire, rushing out to the strait at terrifying speed. They arranged into attack formation, radar locked hard onto the US aircraft formation, just appearing on the southern horizon. On the sea surface, 4 US destroyers continued firing the second wave. 20 more cruise missiles left launch tubes, cutting across waves with long white smoke trails. The Taiwan Strait was now flooded in fire and smoke. The real war had only just begun, less than 20 minutes. In the sky over the strait, dozens of Chinese fighter jets rushed in like a broken beehive swarm. They flew high, flew low, radar locked hard onto the US fighter jet formation just appearing from the south. Jet engine sound shrieked high-pitched piercing notes, drowning out the sound of waves on the sea surface, turning dead gray from smoke. At the same time, at an altitude of 10,000 meters, air-to-air missiles began leaving pylons. The first one from the Chinese plane rushed off, tail spraying bright orange fire, aiming straight at the lead US aircraft. Just 3 seconds later, the US defense system reacted, heat decoys deployed into dozens of small fireballs, luring enemy missile off course and exploding in mid-air into a fluffy white cloud. But not all were deceived. The second and third missiles hit the target simultaneously. A US fighter jet exploded amidst the clouds, turning into a fireball, falling straight into the sea, leaving a long, trailing black smoke streak. Explosion sound echoed. Shockwave shook cockpit glass of other planes. Immediate counterattack. From the US formation, over 20 more air-to-air missiles were fired at once. They shot up, then suddenly dived down in a perfect curve, aiming at the Chinese aircraft group, regrouping. 3 were hit right in the first volley. Spinning with black smoke, pilots ejected white parachutes amidst the blue sky, now mottled with smoke and fire. Meanwhile, under the Philippine sea surface, 4 US destroyers continued firing the third wave. 15 more cruise missiles left launch tubes, hugging the waves rushing north, each carrying a 500-kilo warhead, enough to wipe out another Fujian coastal launcher cluster trying to move and hide. The straight sky was now a crisscrossed white smoke network. Explosion sounds continuous, ceaseless. Only 30 minutes since the first missile, and the airspace had become a hell of fire. Under the Philippine sea surface, dark silhouettes of 4 US submarines silently rose to torpedo launch depth. Not a sound of diesel engine, not a trace of smoke. Dead silent. Only the sound of light trickling water as 6 launch tubes opened caps simultaneously. 12 heavy torpedoes left tubes, tails spinning fast, creating long white bubbles, rushing straight at the Chinese warship formation. Just left Ningbo Naval Port at 50 knots per hour. The first one hit the forward frigate. A dry clack sound under the water surface. Then a water column, 30 meters high, splashed. Hull broke in 2 like a toothpick. Fire flared up even while sinking. At the same time, in the straight sky, the air battle had shifted to chaotic dogfight stage. Planes on both sides were less than 2,000 meters apart. 20mm electronic cannons began firing. Fire bullet drew bright red light lines like meteor rain, tearing apart the hit aircraft wing. Gasoline burning spread into a long fire tail in midair. A Chinese fighter jet lost its left wing, spinning like a dry leaf, crashing straight into the sea, creating a white water column 100 meters high. Meanwhile, from the US aircraft carrier 100 nautical miles away, 20 more fighter jets took off simultaneously. They flew close to the sea surface to avoid radar, then suddenly accelerated vertically, rushing into the back of the Chinese aircraft formation, busy chasing the first wave. Heat-seeking missiles released in volleys, tails, bright blue-white fire, locking hard onto scorching hot engine exhaust pipes. 4 exploded simultaneously, creating 4 orange fireballs, hanging suspended amidst cloud layers before falling like secondary bombs. The sea surface was now mottled with burning oil and metal debris. Underwater explosion sound, aerial cannon sound, wind-screaming engine sound blended into a deadly symphony. Only 45 minutes since the first missile, and the Taiwan Strait was dyed the color of mourning. The sun just rose above the eastern horizon, dyeing the Taiwan Strait red with bloody light. Black smoke from Songshan Airport and Kaohsiung Port billowed high, mixing with remaining fire clouds from missile salvos. Secondary explosions still rang out intermittently from hit ammo depots, each time a dull boom sound shaking the sea surface. At the same time, from the seabed over 100 meters deep, 4 US submarines continued launching the second torpedo wave. 16 more left tubes, this time no longer having white bubbles, but only discrete swirling water trails. They rushed straight at the Chinese warship formation, trying a gong formation to protect the aircraft carrier just left naval port. The first torpedo hit the left frigate. No water column, no loud explosion on sea surface. Only a dry crack sound under the water surface. Then hull broke in two, sinking vertically within 20 seconds, dragging over 300 sailors down to the cold bottom. In the sky, air battle had turned into a deadly vortex. Fighter jets of both sides, now only a few hundred meters apart, 20mm cannons fired bright red fire bullets, streams like rain. A US aircraft was hit by a bullet volley in the engine, catching fire immediately, pilot not in time to eject seat, crashing straight into the sea, creating a final explosion, sound like a metal sigh. Immediate counterattack. From behind, 6 US fighter jets just arrived, accelerated vertically, launching heat-seeking missiles from dead angle. 4 Chinese aircraft had exhausts locked hard, exploding into 4 hanging orange fire clouds, then falling like brilliant shooting stars in broad daylight. Below sea surface, 2 more Chinese warships hit torpedoes, listing completely to one side, oil spreading pitch black. Distress calls emitted on emergency frequency, but no one had time left to listen. Only 1 hour since the first missile, and the Taiwan Strait had turned into a graveyard of iron and fire. The sun had risen high, harsh white light shone straight down on the strait, now mottled with burning oil and floating shipwrecks. Northeast wind blew hard, pushing billowing black smoke clouds to the south, obscuring even the horizon. Sound of waves lapping now mixed with sound of metal banging underwater, weak sailors' distress calls on the emergency frequency. At the same time, from the remaining airbase in Fujian, 30 more Chinese fighter jets took off simultaneously. They flew low, close to sea surface to avoid US radar, then suddenly accelerated vertically when reaching the middle of the strait. Radar locked hard onto the US aircraft formation, circling overhead. Air-to-air missiles released in volleys, this time not heat-seeking but active radar. They rushed off without fire tails, only thin gray smoke trails, then suddenly exploded near the target into hundreds of sharp metal fragments. 2 US fighter jets had wings ripped apart, spinning with black smoke, pilots ejected seats falling into the sea full of burning oil. Immediate counterattack. From the second US aircraft carrier just closed in from the east, 16 more fighter jets pounced in from the rear blind spot. They did not fire missiles immediately, but rushed straight into close combat. 30mm cannons fired continuously. Armor-piercing bullets drew bright orange-yellow lines, ripping apart Chinese aircraft fuselages like tearing paper. 3 exploded in midair, debris falling into sea, creating long hiss sounds when touching hot water. Below sea surface, US submarines continued silently launching the final wave. 8 more heavy torpedoes rushed off, this time aiming at the command ship trying to retreat north. The first one hit right in the engine room. No water column, no loud explosion. Only the sound of steel screaming when the hull was snapped, then sank vertically within 30 seconds, dragging the final black smoke column rising from the sea surface. 1 hour and 30 minutes after the first missile, the Taiwan Strait had completely turned into a giant furnace in the ocean. Nearly 2 hours after the first missile, the wind had changed direction. Southwest wind blew hard from the mainland, carrying strong smell of gunpowder and the heat of burning fire. The Taiwan Strait was now a giant carpet consisting of pitch black oil slick, plain debris floating bobbing, and black smoke columns thousands of meters high billowing up to the blue sky. On the northern sea surface, the only remaining Chinese aircraft carrier was trying to accelerate to retreat. 4 escort frigates smoking blindly, Anti-aircraft guns still fired continuously into the sky like desperation. But from the seabed, 2 US submarines had silently closed in, only less than 3 nautical miles away. 6 launch tubes opened simultaneously. 12 heavy torpedoes left the tubes. No bubbles. No sound. They rushed under the water like ghosts. The first one hit right under the aircraft carrier command tower. A dull boom sound rang out from the sea depths. Then the entire 300-meter hull shook violently. Fire flared up from the aircraft hangar bay, black smoke column. 1,000 meters high, rose straight to the sky like a giant mushroom. At the same time, over Kaohsiung airspace, the final US fighter jet formation just arrived. They did not rush into dogfight anymore, but flew at 15,000 meters high, dropping a series of precision-guided bombs. Each 500-kilo bomb rushed down in a perfect parabolic path, piercing the roof of the remaining command bunker of the now shattered Taiwan Air Defense Force. Continuous explosion sounds rang out underground, stone dust and fire spewed from the bunker entrance like an erupting volcano. Under the sea surface, the Chinese aircraft carrier tilted fully 45 degrees. Water flooded into compartments like a waterfall, dragging thousands of sailors who hadn't reached the deck in time. Within just 4 minutes, the giant ship capsized, leaving a pitch-black water vortex swallowing everything. The remaining US fighter jets formed up, circling the strait one last time, observing the battlefield now, only smoke and fire remaining. No more cannon sounds, no more jet engine sounds. Only the sound of wind whistling through smoldering shipwrecks. Noon, November 22nd, 2025. The sun stood harsh overhead, shining blindingly white on the sea surface. Now only oil slick and smoldering fires remaining. The wind had stopped completely, dead silent. Only the sound of cooling metal shrinking, clicking tick-tick from sinking wrecks. From the south, the final US fighter jet formation dropped altitude to 300 meters, circling one slow round over the battlefield. They fired no more, only observed. Radar scanned down to the sea surface, recording each black smoke column still rising from the Chinese aircraft carrier, now flipped white belly up in the middle of the strait. At the same time, underwater, 50 meters deep, 4 US submarines silently left. Launch tubes were empty. Not a single air bubble, not a single water swirl. They disappeared southeast as if they never existed, leaving behind dozens of Chinese warship wrecks sinking in oil and fire. On the Taiwan mainland, air defense batteries still functional began extinguishing fires. Firefighters ran between bomb craters tens of meters deep. Black smoke still rose from the torn runway. Ambulance sirens shrieked continuously, carrying the wounded from bases hit by the first missiles. In the Fujian sky, smoke columns from over 30 launchers wiped out by US cruise missiles still billowed thousands of meters high. No fighter jets taking off anymore. Only a few rescue helicopters flying low, dropping lines down, pulling up parachuted pilots, drifting amidst the burning oil sea. 2 hours, 15 minutes after the first missile, the Taiwan Strait was silent again. No more explosion. No more jet engine sounds. Only the strong smell of gunpowder remained, and the red color of the setting afternoon sun, dyeing a battlefield no one wanted to look at again. Late afternoon, November 22nd, 2025. The red sun hung suspended west of the strait, bloody light spreading on the water full of burning oil and white-bellied shipwrecks. The wind had died down completely, dead silent, only the sound of water boiling around red-hot ship hulls and the sound of metal screeching as it cooled down. From the south, the US rescue helicopter formation began to lower altitude. They flew slowly, cabin doors wide open, winch line dropping down to the pitch-black sea. Orange life rafts were dropped one by one, pulling along silhouettes, drifting amidst oil and fire. No distinction of flag colors, no distinction of sides, just humans amidst the deadly ocean. At the same time, on the Taiwan mainland, the final air defense systems stopped firing. The battery on the mountain north of Taipei only had red-hot barrels left and a pile of scattered shell casings. Air defense soldiers sat slumped on the ground, steel helmets scattered around, eyes gazing distantly towards the smoky sea. Meanwhile, in the South China Sea, the U.S. aircraft carrier fleet began to decelerate. Destroyers reformed escort formation, missile launch tubes closed tight. No targets left to shoot. No enemy radar signals jumping on the screen anymore. Only a brief order from the command deck remained. Mission ended. Return to holding position. In the Fujian sky, mushroom clouds from wiped-out launchers. Stillhung motionless. No fighter jets taking off anymore. No missiles leaving launchers anymore. Only a few Chinese rescue helicopters circling the sea area where the aircraft carrier was lost, dropping red flares to find survivors. Amidst the falling night, 2 hours, 40 minutes after the first missile, the world had crossed the line. The Taiwan Strait was no longer a strait. It had become a common grave for thousands of people and millions of tons of steel.